morning. Thank you for coming. I will try to speak a little bit slower. I usually speak very fast. The lawyer's charged by the hour, so I'm talk fast. We're going to talk about assignments. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself first, and then we'll get right into the assignment. Everyone has, or you should have. If you don't have, there's some extras at some of the tables. Yeah. There's a 20-page handout. We're not going to do all 20 pages, obviously, but we'll get the gist of it, and then we'll leave a lot of time for questions if you have questions. You can ask me absolutely everything except anything to do with the HST. Just kidding. You can ask me about HST too, but HST is actually its own topic. All right, so I am a real estate lawyer. I'm conveniently located about 2 blocks north of your office at Vaughan Mills. I've been at it for about 25 years. I'm thinking of going to med school actually this September, but we'll see. I'm tired of real estate. I mostly do residential real estate. I also teach at OREA. One of my favorite students are here. Shout out. All right, better? Okay. So mostly I do real estate. Basically close the deals that you guys are hopefully putting together in a quiet market like it is today. Just do corporate commercial and some wills and estates. Unfortunately, most of my friends and family are also lawyers, so if you're ever in a jam, you need an immigration lawyer, a criminal lawyer, a family lawyer, litigation lawyer, you can certainly ask me, and I can refer you out, but I don't actually do those areas of law. Okay. Assignments are like swimming. You have to get into the pool to figure it out, okay? I actually don't know how to swim, because when I was younger, and my parents sent me to swim school, I wouldn't get into the pool because the water was too cold. So I read a book on swimming. Until this day, while everyone's frolicking in the pool, I sit by with my book on the side of the pool, drinking my Dr. Pepper, and enjoying the sights. So with an assignment, I'm going to teach it to you, but in reality, you just got to do them in order to understand how they actually work. Okay? Don't be scared to do it. It's actually not much different than a resale agreement with some extra clauses. You've got a great team at Spectrum. You've got Alana to ask. You can ask me. You can ask people in the office who do them. You've got brokers, you've got managers, you've got all sorts of people. And it's just a question of kind of doing them. You do 5, you do 6, you do 7, then you are an assignment expert. Okay? For those of you who kind of remember, I know some of you may dabble in some commercial properties as well. You know, the first time you had to do a commercial lease, you probably were like, oh my God, I know what I'm doing. What am I doing? Well, you needed the money, so you did it. And if you do have commercial leases, after a while, you get the hang of it. After a while, you kind of understand it. I wouldn't do my first commercial lease with no help. Just like if I've never done a residential rural property, I wouldn't do that without asking people. Okay, you don't know anything about the septic system, or well, right, or potability, flow, things like that, access to the lake. It's not a good idea just to jump into it, right? But with your team, okay, with your office, you're able to do that. That's the beauty of actually being, you know, in a nice office that actually has what they're doing. It has the staff and the men and the knowledge base, so you can actually do it. Okay, so let's actually get into the form, okay? It starts with page number 1. Some of them are stapled backwards. For those of you who are left-handed. Okay. The agreement itself is not a good agreement. However, the agreement itself is made to look like a resale form. If I was designing the form, I would not design it like this at all. And those of you who have already done assignments know that many builders will not accept these OREA or CHUB forms. They actually have their own versions. And they have those versions for 2 reasons. The reason that they say that's the most important reason is because they just don't like the form. They don't like what it does, how it says, how it goes through the clauses. The cynic in me says reason number 2 is the more important reason, and that's because lawyers get to charge the assignee and the assignor to do their own form. Okay, there's always a legal cost, and so they've got their own forms going. But what they've done at OREA is they've taken, and this is an assignment of a condo, they've taken the form that looks like a condo resale, which is Form 101, and they've created this form, which is Form 150, and they've made it look like or imitate the resale form to give you some comfort. So it starts off Very, very similar. And if you actually put a 101 next to a 150, you'd see they kind of look almost like mirrors of one another. Except right at the beginning, they talk about people, and we don't know who these people are. One is called the assignee, and one is called the assignor. And nobody knows who they are, okay? But if you read to the end of the line, you'll get the gist. First of all, you already know that in Form 101, the buyer is listed prior to the seller, okay? And if you read the line, you'll actually see it says, assignee agrees to purchase from assignor. So you immediately realize that the assignee is the buyer. The assignor is the seller. By the time you get to page 3 in the agreement, you'll forget who's who. It's only natural, okay? And so what you'll do is you'll turn back to page 1. You'll see that assignee is listed first, assignor is listed second, and again, you'll remember that assignee is the buyer and assignor is the seller. Just as soon as you figure it out, in about 18 months from now, I guarantee that the people at Trev will change the forms, and they'll change the names of the parties. Okay, those of us who are old enough to remember, a buyer was once called a what? Purchaser, right? And a seller was called a vendor, right? So some of us older people, what was a status certificate called at one time? A stopper certificate, right? As soon as we get the lingo, right, the people at ARIA, to have a laugh at our expense, they'll actually change the wording, okay? But right now, it's assignee and assignor. Now, right in the middle of the page, where it says the word locker, I've highlighted it, though there are a few copies that are not highlighted out there, so bear with me. It says, together with seller's proportionate undivided tenancy and common interest. And I've highlighted the word seller's proportionate. Now, you're going to notice something special about the word seller. It has a lowercase s. Okay, it doesn't have a capital S, it has a small s. What's the difference if something has a large S, an uppercase S, or a small s? Yeah, very good. So most of you know that in grade 3, the teacher told you that when you start a sentence, you capitalize it, right? Or if it's a proper name, you capitalize it. But the answer is right there. When something has a capital in the middle of a sentence, it means that it's a defined term. It means you can go and say, who's that seller that they're talking about? Here, the seller has a small s. So it's an undefined term, okay? If we again go back to our notion of doing our resales, you will do a resale, you'll often make it conditional on, let's say, a status certificate. It says the within agreement purchase sale is conditional upon a status certificate to the sole and absolute discretion of the buyers. Okay, why don't you actually put the name of the buyers in the clause? Why don't you actually say to the sole and absolute discretion of John Smith and Mary Navarro? Why don't you actually put their names in? You don't need to, because when you write buyers with a capital B in that clause, it takes you back to the first page of the agreement of purchase and sale, where the word buyer is already defined in the first line as those two individuals who are purchasing the condo. Okay? So here, S is small because we don't actually know who the seller is. Who do you think the seller is? The builder, right? The developer, okay? But we actually don't know who it is yet, okay? And so that's why it's like that. Okay. Now go back near the bottom of the first page. It says the assignee and the assignor acknowledge that the purchase price. Now you see capital P's. Capital P's mean that that is already defined. What's the purchase price? The purchase price is halfway through the page on the first page. You see purchase price, okay? So the purchase price noted above includes both the purchase price, small p's, the assignor is paid to for the property as indicated in the agreement of purchase and sale between the assignor and the seller of the property, small s, attached here to a Schedule C. So what this clause is in essence telling you is the purchase price on the first page of this agreement is the total purchase price. It's the new price. It's the price with the gravy or with the profit already in it. Okay? And it includes both the original purchase price and the spread. Hopefully the condo has gone up in value. Attached here to as Schedule C, which means that the agreement of purchase and sale, which is the original agreement of purchase and sale, must be attached to this agreement as a schedule. You will run into agents who will sometimes say to you, I'm not going to show you my agreement of purchase and sale because I don't want you to know what we paid for it. Right? They're making $50,000 or $250,000, and they're worried that if you know that they bought the condo for $600,000, you might not be willing to give them $900,000, so they won't actually show you the agreement. Okay? That's not the way it works. The way it works is that they must. It says it's attached here to Schedule C. And as you go through the agreement, you'll see that almost every paragraph says Schedule C, Schedule C, Schedule C. And so there's no such thing as not seeing the agreement of purchase and sale. And if it's a condo, not only should you be seeing the agreement of purchase and sale, but you should be seeing the disclosure documents as well. I'd actually tell you that in some ways, the disclosure may even be more important than the agreement of purchase and sale. Okay? So it's very important that you see that. Now, he may say, well, maybe you're just fishing, maybe you're just curious. Okay? Well, he could insert a clause that says that you're going to hold the agreement confidential. And if you don't make a deal together, you'll return everything and you won't keep any copies. Okay, of course you keep copies, but whatever you say that you didn't keep your copies and stuff like that. There's ways around it, right? Confidentiality agreements, okay? But he actually must show it to you because at the end of the day, what you're buying is his paper. Okay, that's all you're buying. Okay, the analogy is always, okay, the lease on my car is coming due. So I'll say to anybody here want to drive a Honda? And someone says, yeah, I'm in the market for a Honda. I say, well, I'll sell you my lease. What's the first thing you're going to ask me? To see the lease. Because you want to know if I'm paying $300 a month or $1,000, or is there a month left on, or is there 17 years? You want to know what you're actually buying. All you're buying is paper. And so here all you're doing is buying is paper, and so therefore, you actually need to see the paper, okay? So you may have some people who kind of push back against you. Okay, page 2. Assignor covenants in clause number 4. The assignor, again, this is the seller of this agreement, as we know this, the original buyer. Covenants and represents that, promises, swears on his mother's life that the assignor has the full right, power, and authority to assign the prior agreement of purchase and sale attached here to as Schedule C. Again, if you are curious, if you look at B, C, D, and E, which we're not going to do, you'll see that every single one of those subsections refers to Schedule C. Schedule C, over and over and over again. Okay? So the seller, or the original buyer, makes a sworn statement that they have the authority to assign the agreement. That's actually a lie. Okay? It's actually not true. How do we know it's not true? If we go into our paper, let's turn to page 10. We're looking at clause 17. Here's a very kind of standard clause out of an agreement of purchase and sale. This clause number 17 is unfortunately one sentence. There's no periods in it. The purchaser covenants not to list for sale or lease, advertise for sale or lease, nor in any way transfer, sell, or assign the lease, his or her interest under the agreement of purchase and sale, purchaser's right interest in under in the unit, nor directly or indirectly permit any third party to list or advertise the unit for sale or lease at any time until the unit transfer. Right? You get the idea, right? Okay? So, can you MLS it? No. Can you put it on Kijiji? No. Can you put it on the bulletin board at Pat's No Frills at Langstaff and 27? No. Can you tell the guy in the stall next to you in the washroom, he's on the phone, he's like, yeah, I'd love to find you a condo, but there's none out there. And you say, hey, when you finish your business, talk to me. I actually have a client who wants to, sell his condo. You're not allowed to discuss it at all, okay? It's against the rules, okay? And then as the paragraph goes on, you'll see, next little highlighted thing, it says, which consent may be arbitrarily withheld. It means that if you ask the builder doesn't have to have a reason to say no. The builder can say no because he doesn't feel like it. Okay, right? Normally, again, those of you who do commercial leasing, you know that if you ask for an assignment of a lease or a sublet of a lease, it says you have to ask the landlord, and it'll say which consent shall not be arbitrarily withheld, right? He's got to have a business decision. He's got to say, well, the new tenant's not as sophisticated, doesn't have a good covenant. Here, it doesn't have to have any reason. It's just that, today I don't feel like it, ask me tomorrow. Okay? Yeah.
I just want to say that, as everybody knows, all the clauses that are in the Schedule A automatically take precedence over any of the standard clauses that are in any other offer. So with every assignment, it's crucial you make it conditional on the builder's approval of the agreement in order to override that clause and in order to protect
What if there's a
yourself.
schedule in the new home agreement, Morty, that already overrides this clause?
Okay, so we're going to get to it. I'll talk about it now. So many people come to me, they buy down the street here, right? The Met, the Cosmos, whatever project they want to buy here at the corner. And when they come into me, they say, I'm really not buying it for myself, right? I told them I'm buying it for my daughter, she's 3, but it's really not for me. It's right, my money's sitting in the bank, it's not doing anything. I know condos are going up. Great. Look, I'm a capitalist too. If you can make money, I'm happy for you. You don't have the right to assign it, right? What do you mean? I want to assign it. So what happens is, invariably, they go back to the sales office, or we write a letter to the lawyer's office for them, or sometimes, because it's friends and family, they already get a schedule that overrides the pre-printed, and they say, no, I do have an assignment, here it is. You should know that 99.99% of those clauses that override these clauses are not assignment clauses. They're clauses that say you have the ability to ask the builder for an assignment. Because if you look at page 11 now, you'll see a much more typical clause. Here the clause says, it's paragraph 24 on page 11, prior to the closing date, the purchaser covenants agrees not to post any signs for lease, or list the property for sale, or advise others that the property is or may be available for sale, offer for sale or sell the property, enter into any blah, blah, blah. It's an offense not only to sell it, it's an offense to ask the builder, can I assign it? That's considered off limits. Okay? I have a very crude analogy. I don't want to say it because we're a mixed company. Okay? It's like two people in a marriage, and one comes to the other and says, oh, honey, I'm going to blame the guy. Could I X with that other lady? Okay? That's not a proper question in a marriage, right? Asking that question, I'm not saying doing it, I'm saying asking, right? You're already offside, and she's probably visiting the family law lawyers that afternoon, filing for separation and divorce, right? So that's what the clauses say, is that you're not even allowed to ask the builder. The clause that gets inserted into the agreement, which overrides that clause, is a clause that says, you can ask us. And you know what? We'll decide yes or no based on the following circumstances. 90% of the building is sold. There's no units like your unit that's available for sale. You have to ask between 60 and 90 days from roof assembly. How many of you guys have drones? How the hell do you know when the roof is assembled? Right? The building is 42 stories tall. You're gonna go fly your drone and say, oh, it's roof assembly time. Let's go out, whatever, right? Yeah. Whenever you ask them, they'll have a way of getting out. Okay, now, I said 99.99% of the time. There are actually people who do have true assignment clauses. Usually, their last name is the same as the last name as the developer. Okay? So I've had that. I've eaten my words. People have come to me and I said, well, it's not really an assignment clause. It's just the ability to ask the builder, and they'll decide later whether or not they're going to assign it to you. And she said, no, mine's an assignment clause. And I started reading, and I'm like, oh my God, it actually is an assignment clause. And yeah, I said, how'd you get it? She goes, oh, well, my uncle. So she had an assignment clause. Okay? So there are exceptions to the rule, but generally that's not the case. You can ask, and they can say yes, and they can say no. And so I tell all my clients, they may give you the assignment. There's lots of builders who give assignments out at certain times, but you've got to be prepared to close it. Okay, you cannot buy this on the assumption that you will assign it prior to closing. Okay, you got to have a backup plan. Okay, that you might have to close it. Okay, so yes.
When they refer to purchasing here, is that the assignee?
So here, this is an older agreement. Well, two things. This is an older agreement, but you should know that in the language that many of the builders' standard form agreements, they still refer to buyers as purchasers and themselves as vendors. Okay, just we in the real world do buyers and sellers.
So the purchaser that agrees not to post.
That's the original buyer.
All the
The original buyer, yeah. Yeah, because these are builders' agreements, and builders, lawyers don't like the word buyers. Buyers is too casual. They like purchasers, more sophisticated. Okay? All right, so that's the kind of clauses that you see, okay? So having said that, let's just continue and finish off that clause on clause 24, okay? Then it says, by the way, if you do it, if we catch you doing it and we didn't give you permission, then what's the consequence? It says on 24 near the bottom where it's highlighted, it entitles the vendor, which is the builder, to terminate this agreement, whereupon the deposit monies paid by the purchaser or under shall be forfeited to the vendor in addition and without prejudice to any other things that they want to go after. Okay, it's like going to jail and not passing go. Now you think, that's theoretical. It's a builder, he's posturing. He's saying he's going to do it. He would never do it. Turn to page 17. Here's a letter from a law firm, one of the law firms that does a lot of work with a lot of the builders here in town. It's addressed to a guy named Morty Shapiro, who I know, good guy. Letter's being edited to protect the guilty. We are solicitors for the big bad builder, the vendor in the above noted transaction. Our client is advised that your clients have listed the property for sale in MLS. Paragraph X says you can't do that. Your clients are in default of the agreement of purchase and sale. Furthermore, your client's default is fundamental. It's the biggest breach in the world of the contract, which gives the vendor the right to unilaterally terminate their agreement of purchase and sale, whereupon, without prejudice any other of the remedies that the vendor may have, your clients will forfeit the deposit to the vendor. Last paragraph, and by the way, take it off MLS. So what's happened is your client bought a condo at $400,000, and unlike his RSPs and every other investment he's ever made in his life, which goes down, for the first time in his life, he actually bought something that's gone up. It's a miracle, praise the Lord. And he calls you and he says, you're not going to believe it. That $400,000 condo that I bought is worth $600,000 now. Let's sell it. And you're like, great, good listing, 5%, let's go. So you take the MLS listing and you put it on MLS. And the guys at the big builders, they have people that are not just looking at MLS, by the way. They have guys looking at social media. They have people looking at your Facebook sites and your Twitter feeds and your Instagrams. And they actually go to No Frills to look at the bulletin board when they buy tomatoes. Okay? And I think they have cameras in the washrooms, but I'm not sure. Okay? And they discover that you sold it, and it's against the principles of the agreement of sale. So Morty gets a letter that says, you forfeited your unit. Not only don't you make $200,000, you lost the $80,000 deposit. Take it off MLS. And when they sell that unit to their nephew at $300,000, what's going to happen then? It's going to come after you for another $100,000. So your loss is now $380,000. It's like your RSP, like every other investment. And by the way, it's RSP season. I know, because I never hear from my broker, except in the third week of February every year when he reminds me that I should give him money so he can invest it, so I can lose more money. Okay.
5 years estate.
Yeah. Happens all the time. Yeah. Now I get to call my clients and say to my clients, I got good news and I got bad news for you. The good news is next week it's going to be +5. The bad news is you just lost $280,000. Now who's that person going to blame? The realtor. You know that it's always the realtor's fault, right? Just like everything your mother-in-law's fault. Everything is the realtor's fault. Now here, it actually probably may be the realtor's fault. Why? Because your client did not read her agreement of purchase and sale. It's 42 pages long. They never read it. They give it to you. They assume you're gonna read it, but you've got better things to do. Okay, you're gonna be watching This Is Us because there's a season finale. You gotta cram 2 seasons in on Sunday. You gotta sit there reading 42 pages of a stupid agreement with Rochelle that even if you read, you wouldn't understand what it said. And so you put it on MLS. So they've relied on you. Okay? What's the solution? You can A, kill your whole weekend reading that stupid agreement purchase and sale, or B, what can you do? Tell your daughter to, yeah. Right? Tell them, okay, no problem, but I need you to go sit with your lawyer to make sure that you're allowed to assign it. Now, if you start to question your client's ability to assign it, what may happen? Your client may call one of the other 57,000 realtors in the province of Ontario. Say, I don't understand this guy. I want to give him a listing. He's like, I gotta go see the lawyer, take out my checkbook, I don't have time, I gotta take half a day off for work. It's not for me, I want to do it. So, you should always grab your listing first. Grab a listing, then tell him to go speak to the lawyer. If you take an MLS listing, what's the board rules? How long do you have to put it on the market? No, not how long can you keep it, how long do you have to put it on MLS? 48 hours. Once you put it on MLS, you're going to get this letter. So you can take an MLS listing. What kind of listing can you take? Exclusive listing. Okay? Now, an exclusive listing is a violation of the agreement of purchase and sale, but nobody knows about it. Okay? You're not talking, and they're not talking. So you bind them up with an exclusive. Now you say, go speak to your lawyer. Okay, and we'll talk about some other things that you can do. When you get permission to do the listing, you convert your exclusive to an MLS, and then you put it back on. Okay? But you should always grab the listing first. You should know that in any situation you're in, okay, you're dealing with clients, they have a power of attorney for their parents, they say their parents have dementia, right? You're like, I just saw her mother last week. She seemed okay, right? You look at the power of attorney. It's not the best power of attorney you ever saw in your life. If you question them, you're going to lose the listing. Okay? You take the listing, and then you start asking questions. In fact, you do what I do, you blame Alana. Okay? You say, I went to the office, I went to load it. Oh, my broker, she's so, a nice word, particular. She's so particular. She said, this listing doesn't look good. I mean, this power of attorney doesn't look good, or this probate document isn't in order, or whatever. But you already have the listing. This thing's important for you to kind of keep. Okay, you can put it on, you can suspend, you can do whatever you want, you take the exclusive, whichever way. Here you have to take the exclusive. You can't take the MLS because you're just not allowed to put it on. Okay. Now, when I get this letter and I speak to my client of course blames the realtor. Says, I didn't know anything about it. What are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. So I said, I have a plan. Okay. I call up the lawyer for the builder, and I say, I got the letter. I said, I spoke to my client. You're not going to believe what happened. He was reaching for his vitamin D pills. You know, it's the winter, there's no sun, right? Or vitamin D. And instead, he grabbed the next bottle over, which was a depressant. And he took those pills, and he was in a crazy state. And then he called his realtor, and they put it on MLS. He would have never put it on MLS if he was in his right state of mind. Okay? And the builder, this is actually a big builder, because they don't want to be in the press. It's not a nice thing. They can do it, by the way. Lawfully, they can do it. It's contractual. They've got 12 lawyers on their staff who do nothing all day long. I know because they're my friends. Okay? And they're just itching to do something because it's boring after a while. You can only watch so much YouTube videos. So they don't mind taking this to court and making $280,000 for their client. But it's bad in the press. Someone's going to call up the Toronto Sun, the Toronto Star, and say, look at the builder, billionaire builders took away my $200,000. So here what they did is they said, okay, you know, we forgive you the first time. We'll reinstate the deal. What's the fee on reinstating the deal? You wish. $5,000 plus HST. $5,650. It's better than losing $280. Who's paying the $5,860? Who's paying the $5,650? Anybody know? The agent's coming off his commission. He's saying to the agent, right? Well, you're gonna make 15,000, now you're gonna make 9,400. Okay, because if it wasn't for you, I never would have listed it, and I would have got this jab, you got me this jab, blah, blah, blah. And if not, I'm calling up Rico. Okay, the agent accepted it, and the agent sold it successfully, made $9,000 instead of $15,000, okay? If this is a little builder, if this is 172598202, Ontario Limited, then when I call up the lawyer, he's gonna say to me, Morty, off the record, my client's a prick. But it is what it is. You can go call the Toronto Star and tell them what happened. And the Toronto Star will do an investigative report, and they'll say, we tried to get in touch with 170726202 Ontario Limited, but none of our calls were returned. And the guy who's reading the newspaper is going to say to his wife, hey honey, you know we're going out this weekend to look at new condos, right? Let's make sure we don't buy a condo from 17206 or 10602, forget what, well, one of those numbers, honey. Let's make sure that we don't buy a condo from that company because that's an evil company. We'll buy it from the regular builders, okay? See, a regular builder, a big builder, the name will stick, okay? And so the regular builders will let this kind of go through with the admin fee. But I've had it with small builders and they've actually lost their deposit, okay? So you have to be very careful. Let's go back to the terms of the agreement, purchase and sale. So we now see that even though on page 2 of the agreement, in clause number 4, the assigner made a promise that it has the full right and power and authority to assign the agreement, which we said was not true. Maria knows the forms as well. So if we look at page 3, you'll see another clause, which is clause 15. It won't surprise you to know that clause 15 says the opposite of what clause 4 says. If I was designing the agreement, I would have put them actually 4 and 5. It would be much more comical. But they don't want to do it, so it's like, oh, I haven't got the 15, which is not what 4 said. So number 15 says as follows, approval of the agreement. In the event that consent of this assignment is required to be given by the seller, small s, in the agreement purchase and sale attached here to a Schedule C, the assigner will apply the sole expense of the assignor forthwith for the requisite consent, and if such consent is refused, then this agreement purchase and sale is null and void, and everybody goes back home. Okay? So there's actually a clause that says, even though I just said to you that I do have authority to do it, there's another clause that says, I really don't have authority to do it. I'm going to ask the builder whether or not I can assign the agreement over. Okay? A little bit of schizophrenia, or RIA. Okay? Now, this is a very good clause, of course, because if you said in 4 that you have authority and you're not able to get permission, you would breach the agreement of purchase and sale, and then, right, you would be sued. So this is your out. Okay, so it's actually a very good thing that it's actually there. There's something wrong with this clause. Anybody know what's wrong with this clause? Turn of the deposit. I didn't read it, but it's there. Yeah, I just stopped reading, but it actually is there, right? Okay, it says without interest and deduction, whatever. Anybody else notice what's wrong with this clause? When you guys design clauses, what do you actually put in a clause? Time limit, very good, okay? This clause is deficient because it has no time limit. It doesn't say, okay, that the party has a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever. It just says he's going to ask, and if he's refused, then the agreement's going to be terminated. So you'll come to the guy a week later and say, well, what happened? He says, well, I went to the builder, he hasn't answered me yet. Or he said no, but I should ask next month. Because as they get closer to roof assembly, or whatever that means, right, maybe he'll say yes. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a situation where you have 2 people locked in a contract that never ends. Okay? And he actually does not have to release them. He can actually say, no, wait. Let's take the example that we have. We have a market now, not so much in condo land, right, but in houses that's kind of turned slightly, right? The volume's down, prices are moderating in a sense. I did my assignment with this guy last February, okay, and I got $800,000 for this house, okay? And it's 6 months later, and if I try to sell to someone else now, I'm only get $700,000. I lose $100,000. So when he says, well, you've been trying for 6 months, just let me go. Let's just sign a mutual lease. He's going to say, no. I'm relying on number 15. I'm gonna keep asking and keep asking and keep asking until the builder says yes. I'll hold you forever. Don't worry, the house isn't gonna be built anyways for 3 years. We got time. We got nothing but time. Okay? And conversely, if the market switches, which it will, and that house becomes worth $1 million, okay, what's the guy gonna do? Right? Then the assigner's gonna come to him and say, okay, I asked 17 times, he said no, let's go. Even though the builder said yes now, because he's gonna play it. So this clause is a problematic clause because it's got no expiry on it, okay? And so one of the clauses you're gonna put in the agreement of purchase and sale, okay, we're gonna go over that in a couple of minutes, is you're gonna basically copy this clause again into your Schedule A, but you're gonna put a time limit on it. What that time limit is, I don't know, right? It's up to the two sides. The two sides are waiting to wait 5 days, fantastic. You're probably not gonna get an answer in 5 days. Okay, it's not like a mortgage. You need 2 weeks, you might need a month, you might need 6 weeks. You never know, okay? But you gotta put something in so that at a certain point, it ends the agreement, or you give one side the ability to unilaterally advance it another 60 days. I mean, whatever contractually the two sides can kind of stand, that's the way it works, okay? Clause 17 works with clause number 15, and it says default by seller. Okay, now again, they don't allow me to be on the forms committee at OREA because they don't want me to correct their forms for them. Okay, default by seller, what the hell's the seller? The assignor and the assignee acknowledge and agree that the assignment agreement is not complete due to the default of the seller, small s, okay? In the agreement of purchase and sale, then this agreement is null and void, and the assignor is not liable, and everything goes, okay? If for whatever reason the building doesn't get built, or the builder goes bankrupt, or something like that, okay, the agreement comes to an end. Okay, so the assigner gets to rely also on the builder or the developer not kind of completing the project, and he doesn't get stuck, else he would actually get stuck. Okay, so that's an important clause as well. All right, let's go to page 5. Schedule A, looks like a plain Schedule A again. It says assignment agreement purchase and sale condominium. Okay, and I've just written here some suggested clauses. I tried to write it as clearly as I could, but I'm a med school dropout, and so my handwriting's not very good. Number 1 and number 2, conditional on assignee's lawyer, conditional on assignor's lawyer. Okay, normally in a resale, I do not say that you need to make the agreements conditional upon lawyer's approval. Okay, there is a bit of a myth out there that lawyers kill deals when they're conditional. I don't think that's so true. Maybe if the lawyer is a real estate lawyer and he does litigation on the side, maybe he or she wants to kill the deal so they can make more money on the litigation side than on the deal side. But if they're a real estate lawyer, I don't kill deals generally. Okay, here the agreements are quite complicated. Just like the government of Ontario has given a buyer of a new condo 10 days to rescind, okay, I think it's very necessary for both parties to actually sit with their lawyers. Okay, make it conditional for 5 days so they can go through it. And this is going to save you, because again, the agreement is quite complicated. It's 40 pages, and then there's the famous disclosure document, which is 300, 400, 500, 600 pages long. You're not supposed to go through that with your clients. Okay, you're not qualified. You might understand it, you might not understand it. It's very time consuming. It's really not for you. You want to pass the liability off to your local lawyer. You want to make the agreement conditional upon lawyer's approval. Let the lawyer sit with your client in the room for an hour, explain the terms of the agreement of purchase and sale, explain the terms of the disclosure documents. If they're happy, they waive their condition, and if something goes wrong later on, they can't come after you. Say, that wasn't my role, that was your lawyer's role. Your lawyer also has errors and omissions insurance, Common Law Society of Upper Canada, okay? I think it's very important that you do it for both the assignor and the assignee so they understand what's going on. There's tax implications, HST implications, capital gains, there's lots of stuff in there, okay? I don't want you sitting there for 5 hours trying to explain it to your clients.
Morty,
Yeah.
you don't get the automatic 10 days under the contract?
Only the first buyer gets it, but on the assignment you don't get it anymore because it's already gone. And so that's in essence what you're recreating, though you're not doing 10, you do 5. Okay. Number 3, financing. okay?
Sorry, keep in mind, everybody, that the clauses I emailed out to you for the assignments does have all of these clauses in there, plus some additional clauses, so it might be prudent to actually go through them again. If you need to resend them, I can, but it does have all these conditions in it in order to protect yourself. So if you need them again, just let me know and I'll resend them.
Of course, use them, and then sometimes you have to tweak them slightly depending on okay, conditional on financing, inspection if possible, generally not possible, unless it's already an interim occupancy, then you can certainly go see the unit, okay? Number 4, see number 15 on page 3, that's the one we just did, okay, but with a date. You're just gonna copy it over and you're gonna put a date in it, okay? Number 5, changes to who pays for what fees. Okay, the agreement is pretty clear that all the builder's costs to get the assignment are paid by the assignor, paid by the seller. All the closing costs, tarry on trees, art, levies, status certificates, you name it, are paid by the assignee, the buyer. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually vary it up. Okay, if you're a good negotiator on behalf of your assignee, and you say, no, I'm not paying for tarry on, you pay for tarry on. It's a difficult argument to make, right? The guy who's actually getting the condo ultimately probably should be paying for tarry on, but if you can negotiate a cap on it, or you can negotiate to split the cost, or you can conversely the other way, let's say the assignor says, it's gonna cost me $5,000 to get the consent of the builder, I want you to just pay half of it, knock yourself out, it's no issue. The agreement talks about who pays for what, but again, you may want to stage that. Especially if it's in interim occupancy, you may want to put in a clause that says who's going to start paying for interim occupancy costs, okay, depending on the building, okay? Because in essence, the assignee is going to step into the shoes of the assignor. The builder is going to close the deal directly with the assignee. That assignee is responsible for every cost that's in the agreement of purchase and sale, which again is why I would make the agreement conditional upon the assignee's lawyer's approval, so the assignee's lawyer can look to see whether at the time the assignor bought it, the original buyer bought it, did he cap anything? Okay, because we'd be very surprised to learn later on that he's going to be out $5, $10, $15, $20, $25, $30,000 in extra costs, which we're going to look at in a couple of minutes as well. Okay, number 6 should be number 1. How is commission paid and when? Okay, are you going to wait till the building registers and there's a final closing to get paid? And you want to get paid now. I mean, the visa bill's coming, okay? There's nothing wrong with saying you want to get paid now. You know that many times, okay, the assignor doesn't want to wait till final closing to get their money. They want to get their money, either part of it when they get occupancy, or part of it when they get consent of the builder, or all of it, or whatever they want to do. There's no right or wrong here. It's bargaining power. Well, if the assignor is going to get paid now, why should you wait 3 years to get your commission? You should also get paid now. Nothing wrong with it as long as it's an agreement of purchase and sale. Lawyers will write the brokerage a letter saying that they're authorized to release X dollars from the thing. Sometimes it's a split. Any rule you want. It's not an issue. Again, a good reason why it should be conditional upon the assignee's lawyer, because many times, you know, on the approval of the builder, $150,000 is changing hands. Well, if something goes wrong with that building, and that building never closes, the assignee, how's he going to get his money back? He's got to go chase the assignor, who's in Crete now, to try to get back his money. And that's problematic. So again, by making it conditional upon the assignor's lawyer, they get to talk to him and say, look, you know what, you're only protected at a certain amount, up to tarry on this. If you give more money, there's an issue, maybe we should stage it, maybe we should this. Whatever it is, but again, if something goes wrong, and gratefully, not much goes wrong. But you know, 2 years ago, one of the big developers here in Toronto went under, and there's people with real issues there. People who are like going to be in interim occupancy for 6 years. Okay, that's not pleasant. There's people who have deposits that carry on will get them back in 12 years. Okay, and that's why you want them to have that ability to kind of scream at their lawyers and not scream at you. Okay, so 6 and 7 go together. Does assignors get money now, or an interim occupancy and final closing, or? Number 8, verify and guarantee parking locker, what kind, okay? I've had situations where the assignment agreement says that they're getting a locker and they're getting a parking unit. Only the original buyer didn't buy a parking spot or a locker. And now we have an argument because I acted for the assignee. I said, look, the agreement clearly states I'm getting a parking spot and I'm getting a locker. Said the other lawyer to me, yeah, but look at Schedule C, right? Schedule C, there's no locker, and then all you were doing was buying my paper. I'm like, yeah, but you put it on that there was a big argument, okay? And what happened is, here we were lucky, we actually were able to buy a locker and a parking spot from the developer, okay? And everyone kicked in money. My client, the seller, the 2 realtors, right? Again, you work very hard for your commission. To give it away because of that, no, you want to look at and make sure. And not all the lockers are lockers anymore, right? They have these things called bicycle lockers now, which is like the size of this cup, okay? You pay maintenance on it too. And so not every locker is a proper locker. You have to kind of realize what a locker is and stuff like that, tandem spots and stuff like that. Okay, so these are just some of the suggested clauses, okay? I'll take a look at land listing as well. Check it out myself, I don't mind, and maybe I comment on it. But again, each deal is slightly unique, slightly different.
Morty,
Yeah.
sorry. You have a provision that is not allowed to assign once in term as one. So that's something that is arbitrary.
Because of the language of the agreement. Yeah, because, yeah. No worries. Okay, now we get to page 6, okay, which is the math component of the afternoon. Some of you just put your head down on the table and take a bit of math, because since grade 6, math has been challenging for you. Now, Schedule B is a very interesting schedule. So we're going to go through a few examples where it's wrong. We're going to go through an example where it's right. And someone just before we started said he's doing one right now and showed it to me. He said, look what I did. He said, the lawyer made me change this number to that number. And I said to him, you're right, the lawyer's wrong. Why do you think the lawyer would be right just because he's a lawyer? Lawyers don't know math either. Okay? Schedule B, which is the math component, is a very interesting schedule. If you fill it out correctly, it looks wrong. If you fill it out incorrectly, it looks right. Okay? And so that's what people do. People like to make things look right. So they often fill it out wrong because it looks right. No. If it looks wrong, it's right. Okay? Very interesting. All right, page number 7. Here's a real live case. Okay? Number 1, total purchase price including the original agreement of purchase and sale and this assignment agreement. This is the totality of the price. Okay? They start off at $379. I don't know where that number comes from. And then they realize it's actually $481. Number 2, what's the purchase price of the original agreement of purchase and sale? As indicated in Schedule C. It's $430. So here, this dude is making $51,000, correct? He's selling it for $481, he bought for $430, he's making $51,000. And so you would assume line 3 is $51,000, because it's like an accounting ledger. But it is not an accounting ledger, okay? The difference is actually in line number 4, where it says payment by assignee to assignor for this agreement, $51,000. Okay? What's line 3? Line 3 is what's the deposit paid by the assignor to the seller in the original agreement of purchase and sale. That guy put down $20,000. Line number 5. What's the deposit paid in this agreement of purchase and sale? It's 15. It's not always the same deposit. Balance of the payment for this assignment agreement. Now here, right, it actually really is. 6 is the difference between 4 and 5. So 51 less 15 is 36. So these characters actually filled it out correctly, but it looks wrong. So what did they do? They added another clause. They will improve upon the clause et aria. So they wrote as follows. The assignors and the assignees agree that on final closing of the original purchase and sale agreement, the assignors will receive $71,000 less a deposit of 20,000, well, maybe 15, with the assignment for a total of 51, make it 56. Okay, so even though they had actually filled it out correctly and they actually should have stopped, because it had the appearance of looking wrong, they added another clause to make it right, and what of course did they do? They messed it up, okay, because it just doesn't look right. Okay, let's go to another one on page number 8. Here's some very creative people. What they'll do is they're going to add some extra lines to it. They're going to make it, one guy's probably an accountant by nature. Okay, so again, what's the total purchase price? 405, then it's 407, then it's 405. What's the purchase price of the original agreement? 323. So this guy's making good money, right? This guy is making $82,000 odd dollars. $82,000, okay? Which is what you have to write on clause number 4, which is what he did originally. But then the other guy said, no, that doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to be 163. I don't know where that number comes from. And then he said, no, that's too high. Let's make it 162. Actually, this one looks like the one that the guy showed me, right? This is, yeah, doesn't this look like yours? So also some like outlandish number. The reason people are doing that is because often the deposit that the original person gave is a much higher deposit than the deposit you're giving in now. So when you say to the guy, you're making $80,000, the guy's like, what do you mean I'm making $80,000? My deposit with the builder's already $100,000. If all I'm making is 80, it means I'm losing 20. I thought I'm making 80. Wants to make 80, just wants to get his deposit back. And that's why these people start finagling all these numbers, okay? And so these numbers are completely wrong. By the way, number 6, they don't want to put in a number at all, okay? They put 60,500, but then they struck it out. And then, like I said, they made some other lines and stuff like that. God knows what they're doing. I have no idea. Now, the beauty of these things is that no matter how much you butcher it, the lawyers will, or the lawyers' law clerks actually, they'll actually fix it on closing. Okay, so I get these all day long. They're always wrong, okay? But my law clerk knows how it works, okay? We double check the math, we do it, whatever. Usually the lawyer on the other side is normal, and the lawyer says, yes, I see they've done it wrong. And so we do it right. Once in a while, I get into a dispute with the other lawyer because I don't care what you say. It's what the agreement says. I say, no, that's not the way it works. Right? And eventually, I persuade him over to my side and stuff like that, okay? It's like if you do a resale. Once in a while, you do a resale, and in the HST clause, someone will actually put in addition to. Okay, I don't know the word thinking, and they put in addition to. So I've had cases where the other lawyer sends me the adjustments. It's a $600,000 house, and he's asking me for another $90,000 in HST. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, well, it says in addition to. I said, it's a resale house. He goes, well, I don't care. The agreement says HST in addition, you're paying me in addition. And I'm like, over my dead body, right? You're getting $600, you're not getting a dime more. I don't care what the agreement says. Use your brain, right? The brain says it's a resale, there's no HST, there's no HST. Same thing here, okay? So now, if you look at page number 9, this is the same example from the other side that we saw a few minutes ago, the 481-430 house. And these are the law clerks and the software that we have, putting it together. I'm not going to go through the numbers, but you can just see how it works. 481 on one side, 430 on the other side, 20 on one side, 15 on the other side. The reason I put it in here is because you can actually see some of the extras: hydro, water, Tarion, law society status, electronic registration, and driveway paving. Okay, that was back in 2013. Okay, the adjustments are a couple of grand. Okay, if you turn now to page 12, okay, by 2015, you start seeing a statement of adjustment that's a little bit longer. Okay, now there's hydro, water, security deposit, $1,700, Tarion, law society status, vendors electronic registration, PODL, driveway paving. Okay, it's about $4,000, $4,600, okay? And builders start to realize that we can put almost anything in the agreement of purchase and sale, and people are so hungry to buy new houses and new condos that they'll sign and they don't care, even though they have 10 days. So the builders will say, you know what, you're going to give us 5 or 6 post-dated checks. We have to hire someone. What's minimum wage now? Went up, right? It's $14. It's a lot of money for those builders. We have to hire someone, if a person makes $14 an hour, how much do they make in a year? 26,000 with benefits, approximately, let's call it 30. Let's say we'll give them $15 an hour. You're a billionaire builder. You need to hire someone at $30,000 a year who's gonna run to the CIBC to put in the deposit checks. You're gonna be out $30,000. How are you gonna survive? So what you do is you put a clause in the agreement which is sound and says as follows. Every time we deposit one of your checks, we charge you $250 plus HST. We sell 300 units in a building, 6 checks, that's 1,800 checks. Who's got a calculator? 1,800 times 6, 1,800 times $250. How much does that come to? I'm going to Maranello. I have my eye on a candy red Ferrari. Here we go. How much is that?
450.
430? 430,000. Can I get a Ferrari at Maranello for 430? Yeah, excellent. Builder's now survived. He pays the $30,000 to the 17-year-old who runs to the bank, and they're at Maranello and they have another Ferrari to add to their collection. So that's what they've done. They've put in things that you can only dream about. In fact, they'll actually put their own legal fees in there because they know they have to pay their lawyers. And every time we discharge a mortgage, every time we do this, every time we got to pay. Why should we pay? We're giving you the privilege of buying a condo from us. You should pay it. Okay? So if you go to page 14, okay, you'll see, tarry on again. Section 37 Planning Act charges, $2,000. Transaction levy. Form 4 charges, whatever that is. Fees for discharge of the mortgage, $94 paying for their mortgage discharge. Development charges, $8,000. Education charges, $600. Park levy, $3,500. Hydro, registration, security agreement, water, energization. That's a good. They're charging for the meter, and then they're charging to put electricity in the meter. Tax on the chattels. Okay, they're giving you a fridge and a stove, and a microwave and a washer and a dryer. Well, you should pay us HST on that, because they have to pay HST. Even though they're getting back their HST, you might as well get it back twice. Okay? Public art contribution levy, $1,300. Okay, 300 people in this building paid $1,300, that's $400,000. Okay, the builder's daughter is an artist. She takes 2 Q-tips, she hot glue guns them, she puts them in the foyer, she goes, it's art. Okay, and everybody has to pay $1,600 for that beautiful art. Okay, why not? If you can get away with it. I come from a long line of communists. I'm a capitalist, but sometimes I wonder if they were right. Okay? Excess deposit insurance. They used your money to build the building. Why should they borrow it from the government for free when they can use your money? But in order for them to use your money, they have to buy insurance in case they go bankrupt. So they buy excess deposit insurance and make you pay the premium. Okay, that was $600 odd. Okay, it's good, it's good. Oh, it continues on the next page, but you get the gist. Okay? Developer's fee for consent to assignment, $5,600. Legal fee for assignment, $2,200. Okay? This client was lucky enough that they came to me during the 10 days, and we got some of the monies capped. And so you'll see the last number on page 16, the one in the box. My client got back $3,600 as a courtesy credit. Courtesy. Because the builder, many years earlier, the builder had said, okay, I'll cap X, Y, and Z. So they got to save $3,600 for spending 20 minutes with Morty, which is not a bad gig when you think about it. If not, they wouldn't have got this $3,600 courtesy kind of credit, okay? Now, it's getting worse and worse because builders know that people are making money. And the builders are saying to themselves, it's not fair. We sold you a condo in 2014. Who knew what the market was going to be like in 2018? We're so stupid. We should have self-financed the building, which they could do, by the way. Build the building, sell it today, and get $800 a square foot instead of $600 a square foot. So it makes them mad that you're making money. And so what they're doing now is, when you ask for the assignment, at one time the assignment fee was $1,000, then it was $1,200, then it was $2,500, then it was $5,000. Turn to page 20. This is literally the other day, me asking for an assignment. Now look at the builder, what they've written here. In order for title to be taken in any other way other than the original purchaser on the assignment. You know why they're saying that? Because they know there's new mortgage rules in town. So if I just want to add my daughter to title because I don't qualify under the new rules and I need more income, it's an assignment. Oh, that's not an assignment. I thought an assignment is where I sell it to someone that I don't know. No. You're putting your daughter's name on title, that's also an assignment. Okay? And what they've done is they figure out what's the pressure point, okay, that it's still worthwhile for you to assign it, as opposed to closing it and then selling it. So here what you see is in line number 2, the assignment fee is $28,250. The lawyer's fee is $1,695. Okay, so it's $30,000 to assign. Why? Because they know that if you have to close it, you have to advance a mortgage, you have to pay land transfer tax, you pay all the searches, disbursements, title insurance, legal fees. Then you got to list it on MLS. In the meantime, the mortgage is tolling, right? You got to pay maintenance fees, this, that. Then you're going to sell it. So they've calculated. They said they figured out it's probably $34,000 if you've got to do that. So if we charge you $30,000, it's still worth it to assign, right? This is a real assignment. In other words, I've written to say, can we assign it? My client actually really does want to sell it to somebody else. What I'm saying is, just to show you how sneaky they are, is they've written back to me and saying, not just for an assignment, the way you and I think, even adding someone on title is also an assignment. They don't care, they want $30,000. That's all, they want $30,000 if you sneeze or not, okay? By the way, I mean, I don't read the rest of the letter, but the letter basically says you have like 3 weeks to assign it. It says that if you want, you gotta pay, which is another thing, by the way. Many of the builders, if you ask for an assignment, the fee tolls whether you assign it or not. So in other words, if you say I want to assign and they give you permission to assign, and you put it on MLS and you're not successful, and you close it in your own name, you still have to pay the assignment fee because you asked for the assignment. You know what the best profession in the world right now is? Build condos in Toronto. You know, there's no finer profession. Okay, you know, you're telling your children to go to medical school, become engineers, HVACers, tell them to get into condo development. Okay, there's no finer business. So that's why he's written me, I just wrote him about assignment, but he's already covered himself. He says, anything you do, anything you change title, okay, is an assignment fee to them, whatever. And like I said, I calculated with my client that if she had to close the deal, blah, 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 it cost her $34,000. They did the same thing. They did the exact same calculation. They said, oh, we give her the assignment, it costs her $30,000, she saves $4,000, plus she doesn't have to do all of these steps, she doesn't have to qualify, goes on a credit level. They know. Now, if they had said, give us $50,000, she wouldn't do it. She said, $50,000 would be crazy, I'll close the deal, spend $34,000, and then sell it. So they become experts. They know exactly what that pressure point is that you'll relent and stuff like that, okay? That's an assignment. Okay, I had one a couple of months ago where my client is the husband. On closing, he wanted to ask he added his wife, which for the last 300 years has been okay under the common law, but now it's not okay. That was not an assignment, okay? And we're not going to talk about HST, but the builder actually charged him HST. He said, I'm going to charge you HST, you can apply back for the rebate. I was like, what? I'm just adding his wife to title, right? It's only natural, whatever. Well, we feel maybe something's going on, and then their reimbursement say, oh, they have the right. most agreements say, right, if you're a resident of Canada and you're gonna own or occupy the unit, there's no HST. But if we don't feel right, if we smell something's up, okay, you bought 5 in the same building, okay? Or we have the unilateral right to charge you HST, and then you can go bring it up with Revenue Canada. Now for him, it's just a cash flow thing, because he's got to put out $27,000, which he does not have, on closing. He's going to apply back the next day, and in 2 months, he's going to get back his $27,000. As long as he doesn't owe Revenue Canada any money because he hasn't filed legal tax in the last 3 years. That's a different story, right? But he doesn't have the $27,000. He can't borrow it from the bank, so he's got to go to his uncle now and ask for a short-term loan. Or I know a couple of guys that put one out with the money too, but that's not right. Okay, page 19, yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Changing on the purchase sale, you have 2 people on title. So you're saying if you want to add, you can build it on the charge.
That's this builder.
Yes, but what if you want to take one away?
They could do the same thing. I mean, again, in the normal course, they don't, but builders are getting very kind of creative with what they do. So again, during the 10 days, it's not that uncommon for people to come and say to me, oh, you know, when I went to the site, my wife was on a business trip, so she didn't come. I told them I want to add my wife. They said, no, don't worry. When you come to the decor center in 3 years, you'll add your wife to the, I said, oh, no. In 3 years, at a minimum, it'll cost you $565, which is the admin fee, or you may get nailed like this. You go within the 10 days, and you make sure you Skype, you FaceTime with your wife, to get a power to do whatever you have. If you think that your wife and you are both going on title, you make sure that during those 10 days, it's like that, you know what I mean? Because they're very, very creative now, yeah.
Or if the builder's offer turns down or rejects any request for assignment, is that also provided in writing?
Yeah,
Through their lawyers?
Yeah. so that's what we're going to talk about now, and I got a lot of things to talk about, but I think we'll talk and then we'll just do questions, or we can keep talking. I mean, I can talk about this for forever, but I'm tired. Okay, so now we already know that when your client approaches you and wants to assign it, the first thing you're going to do is grab the exclusive listing. Okay, you got to bind your client. Okay, now is the issue about getting the assignment. So there's really 3 ways of doing it. You could say to your client, I'll, as the realtor, ask the builder whether you can assign it. Or you can go and ask. Or your lawyer can go and ask. It really doesn't really make much of a difference. Okay? Now, if I were you, I would not let them do it. I'd either do it myself or get the lawyer to do it. The beauty of you doing it is you go down to the sales office, if there still is a sales office, you walk in there, you say, hey, how are you, blah, 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 I have a client of mine, whatever. She's thinking, maybe, perhaps, could be, that she wants to assign the agreement versus out. Remember, you're not allowed to ask. Asking for assignment is a violation of the term. Okay? She's getting deported, trucks building a wall, she's going to Calgary for work, you know, whatever her reason is, okay? What do you say? Okay? Many times down at the sales office, they have lists of people who are on standby. They're waiting to get that unit. And the person there will say, actually, you know what? Yeah, I actually have someone who's dying for unit 511. Perfect. You become the listing agent, the realtor down there becomes the agent for the buyer. Okay, you're not going to double end it, but it's a pretty easy deal to do. You get paid, you do it, whatever, and everything's yummy. Okay? So that's why I encourage you to go. If you send them down there, especially if you don't have an exclusive listing, you're going to get a phone call from your clients going to say, you're the best agent, I'm going to tell all my friends, you're the greatest, you're the most fantastic, blah, blah. You know, I went down there, I paid $375 for half an hour of parking, but within 20 minutes, they found someone to take my unit. It's all signed up and it's done. What happened to you? You're not getting any commission. Okay, so don't send them down. Now, if you send them down and do an exclusive listing, whatever, I'm not into that game. So that's why I would go myself. I know parking's expensive downtown, and it's frustrating and stuff like that. You can take the rocket now, right? It's just down the street. I had asked them to put it here in the banquet hall so that you guys could come to work. And they turned me down. I wanted them to expropriate this banquet hall and put it in a subway station. Okay, so if I were you, you should go, or again, you could just say, who's your lawyer? You have a lawyer, great. You don't have a lawyer, I recommend you a lawyer, whatever. You get the lawyer to write the letters like we often write the letters. Okay? But never send them down, okay? Kind of very dangerous. And it could be a very easy deal to do because many of them are actually on lists. Some of them, no, don't keep lists and the sales office is closed, in which case you're almost forced in a way. You could call up the developer too, if they'll return your call. If not, then the lawyer writes a letter to their lawyer. Lawyers have an obligation to return phone calls and to write each other, and so an answer actually will come, okay? But like I said, do not send your client down there. That's a kind of a dangerous thing to do. Now, some people don't want to ask for the assignment until they actually have an assignee. Why? Because as I told you, if you ask for the assignment, many of the builders told the fee right away. They said, yeah, you want an assignment? We're willing to give you an assignment. You owe us $17,000. And if you don't find one, you're still at $17,000. So some people like to negotiate these things up and then go to the builder. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Negotiating it is a violation. Again, if nobody knows about it, it's okay. But do not go down to the sales office saying, oh, can I have an assignment with agreement of purchase and sale? In fact, I've already, don't do that, okay? You can't show it. One of the issues is, sometimes these things are signed, it's dated February 16th. Next Tuesday, I'll write to the builder's lawyer saying, can I get an assignment? He'll say yes, I'll tell them yes, and then 2 days later, we'll say, oh, we got it, we found someone, and we'll submit it in. Now, they'll look at the date, and they'll say, oh, you only asked for it on the 20th. Your agreement's dated the 16th. You violated the agreement yourself. Most of the builders are normal-ish in the sense that they're not that. They'll say, like, you know, if we already gave you the assignment, even though you technically violated it or whatever, we'll let it go. Though really the correct thing to do is to release the original agreement of sale, sign a new agreement of sale and stuff like that, transfer the deposit, whatever. Nothing wrong with doing it. Just kind of be a little bit careful with it. Okay? HST, I don't want to talk about. I just want to point out a couple of things in it. Let me get some water. Stop for 1 second. Okay, statement of adjustments on page 12. I highlighted, you'll see HST. This is an irregular agreement of purchase and sale where the person is a resident of Canada and they're going to over-occupy the property. You see the way the HST just comes in and it goes out. You see it's on both sides of the ledger, comes in and it goes out. Okay, that's the way the HST kind of works in a non-assigned agreement. You should know that in an assigned agreement, and again, this is another reason why I tell you to make it conditional upon assignee's lawyer's approval. Most of the builders take the position that if you assign the agreement, even though the assignee is a resident of Canada, then they're going to owner-occupy. Up to about 2-3 years ago, they would not charge HST. They would just do the HST in the same way. But there's a lot of audits in the Revenue Canada, and a lot of cases in the federal tax court, and the builders are nervous because at the end of the day, it's much better for the builder to collect the HST and give it to Revenue Canada, and it washes and they're out of the situation. Because if they don't do that, okay, they don't collect HST, and something happens and Revenue Canada says, you know, builder, you should have collected HST, they'll actually go after the builder. And the builder's got to go now find the buyer. Well, by the time all this happens, the buyer may have sold the property and moved away. And so the builder's going to get stuck with the HST. So pretty much on assignments these days, what most builders do is they say, we don't really care that the assignee is a resident of Canada and if they don't occupy, we're going to charge them HST and they can apply back for the HST rebate. Just like I told you the story with my client who added his wife to title. I said, oh, we're nervous. I said, what do you have to be nervous about? It's natural. He's actually living there. I mean, think about it. He was already in there. He had interim occupancy. He moved in with his wife. It was obvious that they were there. 6 months later, we do the final closing. And I said, what are you nervous about? Well, we're nervous. No, they charged him HST because it's just safe for them. They charge, they give it, and now he's got an arrangement with the government, okay? And so, when your clients go to their lawyers to talk about the terms of the agreement for sale, their lawyer will tell them, by the way, there's a chance that on final closing, even though you're going to live there and you're going to, and are residents of Canada, you may actually have to come up with HST. The bank's not going to lend you HST. You got to come up with it your own. Now, if you're borrowing, 70% loan to value, it's not a big deal. You can borrow 72% loan to value from the bank. But if you're at CMHC at 90%, or you're at 80 and you don't want to go into CMHC, you have to have an aunt, a sister, a stash, right, of anywhere between $24,000 and $30,000 to pay HST and then to get back your HST. Okay, so again, something that the lawyer kind of breaks the bad news to them, you shouldn't have to break this bad news to them. When you're doing the agreement of purchase and sale, and it comes to the HST section, which is on page 18, well, the photocopy is not a very good photocopy, you treat it like a resale. You put that HST is included in the purchase price. You always put included in. And again, you may have some pushback from the other side. It says, no, it's really an addition because you know you're going to have to pay the HST to the builder. You go, no. The assignment agreement is between us. It's got nothing to do with the builder. Between me and you, assignee, assignor, there's no HST. It's included in the purchase price. The builder may charge my assignee HST. That's okay. That's handled in the original agreement purchase sale attached here to a Schedule C. This agent here, the photograph is not very good. They argued. One said it was included in, one said it was in addition to, and so they kind of split the difference. So they wrote as per the original agreement of purchase and sale, which that's not the answer, but that's what they put in. They were arguing over it, and no one wanted to kind of call a lawyer and stuff like that. But again, you should just be putting included in just like a regular resale, okay? Again, if you understand why I'm making the agreement of purchase and sale conditional upon the assignee's lawyer's approval, why does it have to be conditional upon the assignor's lawyer, the guy who's selling the agreement? Why does he need 5 days with his lawyer? Same reasons, okay? HST, capital gains, taxes, okay? There's a lot of cases in federal court right now. Unfortunately, the cases are all over the place. One says yes, one says no, one says maybe. It's very confusing. And you want them to know that they spoke to their lawyer. The lawyer's also going to tell them to speak to their accountant to know whether they should charge HST, what they have to pay. There's a case that says you don't have to collect HST on the spread, on the profit, but you have to collect HST on the deposit. There's another case that said the cases are all over the place. Again, you don't want it to kind of sit on your lap. Later on, they thought they made $62,000, and by the time they finished with Revenue Canada, they made $6,200.
I just want to shed light on that a little bit more, Morty, because that has been a lot of the questions that I have personally been getting. First things first, it is a RICO regulation that we cannot be giving any tax, legal, or environmental advice. So if you are going to give them some sort of advice, if you had experience or whatever, it's important to always add a disclaimer and get them referred to a professional like their accountant or their lawyer. Just like Morty said, we are not privy to a lot of the information of what they would be charged. I mean, there's been a lot of things where the assignor, the original buyer, since they're assigning the property and not moving in as a principal residence, they would be charged HST on the profits, but they might not necessarily get charged just HST. They might also have capital gains and a whole bunch of other things like Morty was saying, which we're not privy to that information to determine that, because CRA does it on a case-by-case basis. It depends on the file that they have with them, how many properties they own, if they're back on taxes. I mean, there's so many different variables. So do yourselves a favor and, even if you know the answer, just say, I would love to get you the right answer to this question, but, it's best that you speak to your accountant and your lawyer. And you still might get some pushback. We've had situations where we got pushback from the clients saying, oh, we don't need to speak to them, da-da-da-da. Keep pushing them to say, the liability on yourself and also to get them the correct answer. Because even if you want to get them the answer, there's no way we would have access to the information to get them the right info that they need. So depending on the client, some may be charged more fees than others. So just keep that in mind. Okay?
And make sure you get it in writing too.
Absolutely, everything.
Right? The reason Steve Jobs invented the iPhone is so that you have the ability to actually text or email your client saying, make sure to speak to your accountant. They'll write you back. Oh yeah, I spoke to my accountant, he says everything's fine. They didn't speak to their accountant, You don't care. You back up that text, you back up that email, you shove it in the file, whatever, and later on when they get bit by Revenue Canada, you say, I asked you, you said whatever, that's the end of the story.
Even if it's done verbally, guys, anything with your clients or anything pertaining to any real estate deals, if it's a client that likes to do things verbally and it was a conversation that was on the phone, I always recommend that everybody send a follow-up email. Just say, as per our conversation that we discussed today, and give a detailed summary of exactly everything that you've discussed and what they told you, so you have some sort of documented conversation, even though it was done verbal. I know it's a bit of a hassle, but if something happens and there's a situation, you are going to be thanking God that you did it. Okay?
Just two last things, and then we'll do the questions. Number one, the issue of capital gains and HST related to that. Believe it or not, the test. My clients call me all the time, and agents call me all the time. How long do I have to live in a condo so that becomes my principal residence? Is it a year? Is it a day? Is it right? So it's actually based on what's called an intention test. It's a state of mind. It's like being in love. Okay? Revenue Canada is a very romantic. You ever go to Belleville, where Revenue Canada hangs out? There's such romantic people there. It's like County, wine, chocolate fudge, beautiful place. So they said on what's called an intention test. What was the intention of the buyer when he purchased the property? That's what it's based on, believe it or not. And I'll tell you a very scary story. I have a client who's been a client of mine for many, many years, probably 15 or 20 years now. Bought a house in Maple, $600,000, lived in the house for 2.5 years with the family. And then an agent knocked on the door on a Sunday. By the way, cold calling works. I know it's not comfortable. There's like my pep rally to you. I know you don't like it, whatever, but I hear from people all the time, because I always ask my people, why'd you go with that agent? Why'd you go? I'm always kind of curious. And people will say, oh, he knocked on the door, he called me. And I'm like, oh, okay, there you go. So it was a cold call. Guy knocked on the door. He said, hey, do you want me to sell your house? He said, yeah. He said, this. Well, he said, no. He said, but you've made so much money. Blah, blah. Why? How much? I can give you $900,000. The whole thing. He said, $900,000. No, I just bought the house for $600,000. He goes, no, I'm telling you, bro. Listed and sold $900,000. Guy was grateful, loved his agent. Okay. A year later, he gets a letter from Revenue Canada saying he's got to pay capital gains. Okay. So he comes to me and he goes, what's this? I said, well, they don't understand. It's your principal residence. Do you have an accountant? Yeah, tell your accountant to send them back a letter saying this is our principal residence. You have to pay capital gains. Okay. Sent a letter. Okay. He says, I've lived there. I said, no, I know you live there and stuff like that. Revenue Canada came back to him and said as follows. We looked at your NOA. You make $17,000 a year. My guy drives one of those coffee trucks. Okay? You make $17,000 a year. How did you afford this $600,000 house? Right? You had a $300,000 mortgage, $1,000 a month. Gas, hydro, water, blah, blah, blah. They calculated it needed about $2,500 a month to run the household. He's only making $17,000 a year. Now he's got two choices. He could say, well, I'm in Woodbridge, and in Woodbridge we have a different form of payment. That's not a great thing to do with Revenue Canada, right? Because they'll let him off on the house, but he'll get audited for the last 42 years of his life. So that's not a good thing. He could say, it's true, I can't afford the house, but my mother's a really kind person, and so my mother gives me an allowance. She gives me $2,000 a month as allowance. What's going to happen now? Show me the deposits. So you're say, well, no, she gives me cash. Now, there's nothing wrong with mom going to the ATM. I mean, there's something is wrong with it. There's nothing wrong legally with mom going to the ATM or going to the branch and taking out $2,000 and giving him $2,000 cash. There's nothing wrong with it. What's going to happen now? Mom's going to get audited, right? And so he was really in a bad situation. So I said, look, let's go talk to your accountant again. And what we decided was it would be less painful to pay capital gains on his principal residence than to open up his books for the last 40 years. Don't forget, with capital gains, 50% of the gain is exempt from taxes, right? So yeah, he made $300,000. 150 is out. They only look at the other 150, which means that year, instead of making $17,000, he made $167,000. And he had to pay $50,000 in in tax. So it was worth it for him to pay $50,000 versus getting audited, whatever. But you see, that's how Revenue Canada plays. Revenue Canada is a much more sophisticated organization now. And they, by the way, Revenue Canada knows he lived in the house. There's no doubt. His driver's licenses, we have his bills, everything shows that he lives in the house. Their question was different. Their question was, show me how you can afford it. Okay, and Revenue Canada plays the game both ways. If you buy a condo, okay, and you say you live there, they'll say, show me your driver's license and all your billing, your hydro bill. When you show them that it doesn't have that address, they'll say, oh, you see, you never lived there because you never changed all your addresses there. Conversely, if you change all your addresses down there, they'll say that's not indicative that you live there. You're just smart enough to know that we're going to ask you that first question, so you passed the first test. Now let's go to the second test. You see, they're playing it both ways, okay? Which is somewhat upsetting, which is actually also okay in a sense. It shouldn't just be us that pays taxes. Everybody should pay a little bit of taxes, right? Okay. All right, questions if you have them. It could be on assignments, it could be on anything. Politics, geography, sports, anything you want. So you only get the 10 days if it's a new condo, and it has to be enrolled in Tarion. So again, be very careful, because all these people who buy like in Liberty Village, which are like conversions of warehouses, they don't get the cooling off period, though Tarion's changing it. Traditionally, Tarion would not enroll a building that's already built. They have to see the foundation going in. So you don't get it in resale homes, resale condos, you don't get it in new homes either. There's a government that's giving you 10 days. The builder often says, we're giving you 10 days, but they're not giving you anything. It's the government of Ontario. And if you need more than 10 days, you can certainly negotiate more than 10 days.
I understand that, but you had said that we were talking about something that, certain things in that 10-day period, something changing.
Oh, yeah.
So what are all the things that where they can now that?
Yeah, so because you can rescind, so you've got some power over the builder, not a lot, because if you don't buy it, they'll sell it next weekend to somebody else. But in the normal course, right, don't forget the realtor on site not interested in dealing with another couple for another 4 hours picking out whatever. They already have you 97% in, they might as well get you. So any changes you want, like the ability to assign, caps on numbers, taking things out, again, I encourage you to just send them to their lawyers within the 10 days, okay? As long as you know the lawyer likes to close deals. I mean, he's sometimes the lawyers are pretty crazy, $800 a foot, are you mad, whatever. That's not the lawyer's business what a business paying a foot. And usually the lawyer will write a letter to the lawyer for the builder saying, these are the changes we want, take this out. I mean, some people are very specific. They want parking next to the elevator because they're handicapped, or they want it on the upper level. I mean, you can ask for anything you want. Again, because the market is so tight, 10, 15 years ago, I used to ask for pot lights in the kitchen. Because at the decor center, they charge you $300 per pot light. So I used to say, oh, come on, give the guy 5 pot lights, or whatever. I don't ask for that anymore, because the answer is no down the line. I used to ask for better appliances, better laminate. Finishings I don't even touch anymore, because they laugh at you. So it's really legalistic issues if you don't like certain things. And really, it's trying to get more cost certainty. Because in the back of the agreement, there's 2 pages of Tarion numbers. Part 1, or Part A of the schedule, is where they actually tell you what they're going to charge you. And Part B is the scarier page. It says, we're going to charge you all of these on closing, but we're not going to tell you how much they are now. We're going to tell you later. And later is a very scary item. So we actually asked them, try. But like I said, the better the market gets, the less they're willing to get. But they usually make it worthwhile, like in the sense that you spend an hour with the lawyer writes, they'll give them $500 off, $1,000 off, $3,000, like in that example, it's $4,600 off. It's worth your client sitting with the lawyer for the hour and the lawyer kind of writing it. But like I said, the market's a tight market. If the market really changes, right, then I'll start asking for pot lights again, you know what I mean? But there's only so much you can ask. And a lot of the builders now, they know, like as soon as you say, I'm going to go to my lawyer, they actually take out a schedule right away. And they go, well, your lawyer's going to ask for this, this, and this, so here. If you don't say you're gonna ask for the lawyer, that you're going to the lawyer, they're not sure you're going to the lawyer, they're not gonna take the schedule out, even though the schedule is prepared, because they figure if you're not smart enough to go to the lawyer within the 10 days, so you'll get stuck later on, okay?
I guess I was just, I understand that part, which is something you said, I thought, so basically.
Someone asked if you get a 10-day cooling on the assignment, is that it? Someone said when you do the assignment, you get 10 days, and the answer was no. So that's why you have to make it conditional on your lawyer's approval, but I don't remember what the, I try not to listen to myself when I talk.